every single one of you. We'd love to know, what part of the world are you watching from right now? Let us know in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story. Devin Hart's massive hands moved with surprising delicacy as he plated the pan-seared scallops. Each golden brown piece was positioned with surgical precision, the microgreens scattered just so, the saffron sauce drizzled in an elegant pattern. Even after a 14-hour shift at his restaurant, he took the same care with his wife's dinner as he did with every dish that left his professional kitchen. "Alicia, dinner's ready," his deep voice carried through their modern home. The response was delayed, accompanied by the rapid clicking of a laptop being closed. "Coming, honey." The words were honeyed, practiced. Alicia King emerged from their home office, her silk blouse perfectly pressed despite the late hour. She moved with the practiced grace of someone who'd spent years in the social spotlight. "Another long book club meeting?" Devin asked, pulling out her chair. His 6'4" frame dwarfed her petite figure, yet his movements were gentle, controlled. "Oh, you know how Sarah gets when she starts analyzing character motivations." Alicia's laugh tinkled like expensive crystal. "We completely lost track of time discussing the protagonist's moral ambiguity." Devin nodded, noting how she avoided his gaze while reaching for her wine glass. He'd selected a premium Bordeaux from his restaurant's private collection, a 2015 Chateau Margaux that retailed for over $1,000. "I thought you might enjoy this with the scallops." Stewart recommended it specifically. At the mention of his wine supplier's name, Alicia's hand trembled slightly. "Stewart has excellent taste," she murmured, taking a deliberately small sip. "That he does." Devin watched her over the rim of his own glass. "He's been invaluable to the restaurant. Did you know he's been helping us build our premium wine collection for almost 3 years now?" "Has it been that long?" Alicia's fork pushed a scallop around her plate. "The time just flies, doesn't it?" "It certainly does." Devin cut into his scallop with precise movements. "Speaking of time, I was thinking about our anniversary next month. Maybe we could do something special, just the two of us. No phones, no interruptions." Alicia's smile faltered for a microsecond. "Oh, darling, I completely forgot to tell you. The book club is planning a weekend retreat that weekend. We've already put down deposits and everything." "Cancel it." The words came out harder than he'd intended, making Alicia look up sharply. Devin softened his tone. "I mean, surely they'd understand. 10 years of marriage is something worth celebrating, isn't it?" "Of course it is, but—" Alicia reached across the table, her perfectly manicured hand resting on his massive one. "You've been so busy with the restaurant lately. I don't want you to feel obligated to plan something elaborate. We can celebrate when I get back." Devin turned his hand over, engulfing hers. His grip was firm, just shy of uncomfortable. "You're right. I have been busy. Too busy, maybe. I should make more time for us, shouldn't I?" "You're too good to me," Alicia said, the words automatic, rehearsed. She pulled her hand back, reaching for her wine again. "These scallops are perfect, by the way. You always know exactly how I like them." "I pay attention." Devin's dark eyes never left her face. "To everything." The rest of dinner passed in a dance of careful conversation. Alicia spoke about her charity work, the upcoming hospital board meeting, the new boutique opening downtown. Devin listened, noting how she filled every silence with practiced ease, how her eyes constantly darted to her phone on the counter. When the plates were cleared, Alicia pressed a quick kiss to his cheek. "I need to finish some emails for tomorrow's fundraiser committee meeting. Don't wait up for me, okay? Take your time." Devin began loading the dishwasher with methodical precision. "I'll just clean up here and maybe review some inventory reports. We've had some discrepancies lately that need attention." Alicia paused at the kitchen doorway. "Discrepancies?" "Nothing major. Just some premium wines that aren't adding up. I'm sure there's a perfectly reasonable explanation." "I'm sure there is." Alicia's voice was steady, but her fingers worried at her silk sleeve. "Good night, darling." Devin waited until her footsteps retreated to their home office before pulling out his phone. The smart home app showed him exactly what he expected. The security system had been disabled for exactly 47 minutes earlier that day, while he'd been dealing with a crisis at the restaurant. The same pattern had repeated 3 times in the past 2 weeks. He opened his text messages, scrolling to his conversation with Stuart Hardin. The last message was from 2 days ago. Those cases of Chateau Margaux arrived. Want to do a tasting tomorrow? Devin's thumbs hovered over the keyboard. After a moment, he typed, "Rain check. Inventory issues need my attention first." Stuart's response came quickly. "No problem, chef. Let me know if you need any help sorting it out." "I will," Devin replied, his jaw clenching. "Count on it." From the office, he could hear Alicia's voice, low and urgent. Not the tone one typically used for fundraiser emails. Devin moved silently through the house, his chef's instincts for timing serving him well as he positioned himself near the office door. "Can't do it this weekend," Alicia was saying. "He's being weird about the anniversary thing?" "No, of course he doesn't know. He's too busy with his precious restaurant to notice anything." "Yes, I'll figure something out. I always do." A pause, then a soft laugh that Devin had never heard directed at him. "You're terrible. What if he heard you?" I know. Mr. Perfect Chef wouldn't know what hit him. "Yes, okay. Same time tomorrow. Love you too." Devin remained motionless as Alicia ended her call. Through the crack in the door, he could see her checking her makeup in her compact mirror, practicing her innocent smile, the same smile she'd been giving him for months now. His hands, capable of such delicacy with food, curled into fists at his sides. In the restaurant, his staff called him the beast behind his back, not for his temper, which they'd never seen, but for his relentless perfectionism, his absolute control over his domain. Now, standing in his own home, listening to his wife orchestrate her betrayal, he felt that other side of himself stirring. They thought him oblivious. The gentle giant. The pushover who worked 16-hour days while his wife read books with her friends. The trusting fool who let his wine supplier handle million-dollar inventory without oversight. Devin pulled out his phone again, opening his banking app. With a few taps, he transferred a significant sum to a new account, one of several he'd created recently. Then he opened his contacts, scrolling to a number he'd saved but never called. The text was brief. "Ms. McMillan, I find myself in need of your expertise. Dinner at my restaurant tomorrow? On the house, of course." Carrie's response was equally succinct. "Table for one. Chef Hart?" "Yes," he typed, hearing Alicia start another call in the office. "Just me. For now." The kitchen of Hart's Haven hummed with controlled chaos as Devin supervised the dinner service. His presence commanded attention, his rare words carrying the weight of law among his staff. Tonight, however, his focus was split between the perfectly executed dishes and the wine cellar door, where Stuart Hardin was conducting his weekly inventory. Chef Sophia Stevens, his sous chef of 5 years, appeared at his elbow. "The Kobe beef for table 7 is ready for your inspection." Devin examined the perfectly marbled meat, his trained eye catching the precise temperature, the immaculate presentation. "Good. Table 4's risotto?" 3 minutes out. Sophia hesitated, then added in a lower voice, "Stuart's been down there for almost an hour. Usually takes him 20 minutes tops." "Has he?" Devin's tone remained neutral as he adjusted a garnish with surgical precision. "Interesting." The kitchen door swung open, and Stuart emerged, his typically immaculate appearance slightly disheveled. "Chef, got those inventory numbers for you. Mind if we go over them in your office?" "Actually," Devin wiped his hands methodically on his apron, "why don't you join me in the wine cellar? I've been meaning to discuss some special selections for next month's tasting menu." Something flickered across Stuart's face. Concern? Fear? Before his professional smile returned. "Of course, though I should mention I have another appointment in 30 minutes. This won't take long. Sophia, you have the pass." The wine cellar was Devin's pride and joy, housing over $1 million worth of carefully curated wines. The temperature-controlled space hummed softly as the two men descended the stairs, their footsteps echoing on the stone floor. "So," Stuart cleared his throat, consulting his tablet, "we're looking good on most inventories, but I noticed we're running low on the Chateau Margaux." "Funny you should mention that." Devin moved to a specific rack, his bulk blocking Stuart's path to the stairs. I was doing my own inventory check last night. Found some interesting discrepancies. Stuart's laugh was just a touch too high. Probably just a recording error. You know how these things can get mixed up during busy services, do I? Devin turned, his massive frame suddenly seeming to fill the confined space. Tell me, Stuart, how long have we known each other? 3 years, give or take. Stuart took a small step back. Look, if there are any issues with the inventory, I'll handle it personally, like you've been handling my wife. The words fell into the cellar's hushed atmosphere like drops of liquid nitrogen. Stuart's face went through a rapid succession of expressions. Shock, denial, fear, and finally, a desperate attempt at composure. Devin, I don't know what you think you've heard, but I heard everything. Devin's voice remained eerily calm. Last night, in fact, quite the performance you three have been putting on. You, Alicia, and your brother Neil. Very creative use of my house while I'm working. My bedroom, specifically. Stuart's back hit the wine rack, making bottles clink softly. Listen, we can explain. Oh, I'm sure you can. Devin reached past Stuart, selecting a bottle of Chateau Margaux. Just like you can explain how cases of my most expensive wines keep disappearing. The same wines that were seen being served at that downtown bar last week. The one where you and Neil like to celebrate your achievements. It's not what you think. Stuart's composure was crumbling. Alicia and I, we just got carried away. Devin examined the bottle's label with exaggerated care. Lost control of the situation? Please, enlighten me. I'm particularly interested in hearing about how you've been laughing about it with your brother. About how my wife cooks up excuses while you help yourself to my inventory. About how the great Chef Hart is too busy playing the perfect husband to notice he's being made a fool of. Stuart made a break for the stairs, but Devin's hand shot out, gripping his arm with crushing force. We're not done. You're hurting me. Stuart's voice cracked. I'll pay for the wine. I'll stay away from Alicia. Just what? Devin's grip tightened. Just forget how you've been mocking me to my entire social circle? Just ignore how you brought your brother into my home. Into my bed? Just pretend I don't know about your pregnant wife? All color drained from Stuart's face. How did you? I pay attention. Devin released him with enough force to make him stumble. To everything. Your wife Harriet is 7 months along, isn't she? First child. She's been posting regular updates about the pregnancy on social media. Seems excited about building a family with her loving, faithful husband. Please, Stuart whispered, don't tell Harriet. She's had complications. The stress could what? Devin's voice turned arctic. Hurt her? The way you've been hurting her by sleeping with my wife? The way you've been stealing from me while pretending to be my friend? That kind of hurt? Stuart slumped against the wine rack, defeated. What do you want? Want? Devin smiled, and for the first time, Stuart saw what Devin's staff meant when they called him the Beast. I want you to keep doing exactly what you've been doing. Keep supplying my wine. Keep meeting my wife. Keep thinking you're getting away with it all. I don't understand. You will. Devin turned toward the stairs. Oh, and Stuart? That appointment you need to get to? Tell my wife I said hello. Tell her everything's fine. Tell her I suspect nothing. Because if you breathe a word of this conversation to anyone, Alicia, Neil, anyone, I'll make sure Harriet learns everything. Not just about the affair, but about the wine theft, the fraud, all of it. I wonder how the stress of that would affect her pregnancy. Stuart remained frozen as Devin climbed the stairs, his heavy footsteps deliberate and measured. At the top, Devin paused. One more thing. That Chateau Margaux you've been stealing? It's a counterfeit. I switched the real inventory months ago. You've been serving fake wine to your brother's law firm colleagues. Might want to consider how that would affect his upcoming promotion when it gets out. The cellar door closed with a soft click, leaving Stuart alone in the temperature-controlled darkness, surrounded by bottles worth more than he made in a year. Realizing that the man he'd thought was a pushover had been playing a much longer game than anyone suspected. The diner was exactly the kind of place Devin Hart would never be caught dead in. A 24-hour greasy spoon with laminated menus and coffee that could strip paint, which made it perfect for this meeting. Carrie McMillan slouched in a corner booth, her multiple piercings and heavily tattooed arms making her stand out among the late-night truck drivers and shift workers. Her laptop hummed quietly on the sticky table, lines of code reflecting in her thick-rimmed glasses. "You're sure about this?" she asked as Devin slid into the booth. "Once we start, there's no going back. Show me what you found." Devin's voice was pitched low, barely audible over the clatter of dishes and tired conversations. Carrie turned her laptop around. On the screen, a series of text messages scrolled past, conversations between Alicia and Stuart and Neil, all carefully archived and categorized. "Your wife's phone was easier to crack than a soft-boiled egg. Stuart's too. They're not exactly criminal masterminds." The timestamps. Devin studied the screen with the same intensity he usually reserved for examining produce. "Match perfectly with your security system logs." Carrie pulled up another window. "See these gaps? Every time your home system was disabled, there's a corresponding cluster of messages. They've got a whole code worked out. Book club means your wife's free, wine tasting means Stuart can get away from his pregnant wife, and legal consultation is when his brother Neil can slip away from the law firm." Devin's jaw tightened as he read some of the messages. The casual cruelty, the jokes at his expense, the detailed planning of their deceptions. It was all there in black and white. "There's more," Carrie continued, pulling up financial records. "That wine theft you suspected? It's worse than you thought. Stuart's been doctoring the inventory records for months. He sells your premium stock to private collectors, replaces it with cheaper wines, and splits the difference with Neil. Your wife's been helping cover the paper trail." "How?" "She's on your restaurant's board, right? Access to all the financial records?" Carrie tapped a few keys, bringing up a spreadsheet. "She's been adjusting the purchase orders after the fact, making it look like you're buying cheaper wines at premium prices. The extra money goes into an offshore account." "Very neat, very professional." Devin's expression remained neutral, but his hands curled into fists under the table. "Show me everything." For the next hour, Carrie walked him through the evidence. Security footage from the restaurant showing Stuart and Neil drinking the stolen wine with their friends. Email chains where Alicia coordinated their meetings under the guise of business lunches and charity events. Bank statements showing systematic theft that had cost him hundreds of thousands of dollars. "I can set up surveillance in your house," Carrie offered, closing one window to open another. "High-def cameras, motion sensors, the works. All disguised as normal smart home upgrades. Your wife won't suspect a thing." "Cost? For what they've stolen from you?" Carrie snorted. "Consider it an investment in justice. Just promise me one thing. When you take them down, make it spectacular." Devin's smile was cold. "I need everything in place by next week. Multiple angles, perfect audio. All of it backed up to secure servers they can't access." "Already started." Carrie turned her laptop to show him the equipment specifications. "I'll pose as a smart home installation specialist. Your wife will be too busy with her book club to pay attention to the details. One more thing." Devin pulled out his phone, showing her a calendar invite. "Annual summer barbecue, 8 weeks from now. I want everything ready by then. Every camera, every microphone, every backup system." Carrie's eyes widened as she realized what he was planning. "That's actually brilliant. All your staff, their families, their social circle. Everyone in one place." "Everyone," Devin confirmed, his voice carrying the same precision he used when instructing his kitchen staff. "I want their entire world watching when the truth comes out." "You're not what I expected," Carrie admitted, closing her laptop. "When you first came to my restaurant as a customer, started asking about digital security, I thought you were just another rich guy worried about his Wi-Fi password. People see what they expect to see." Devin stood, his massive frame casting a shadow over the table. "My wife sees a devoted husband too busy to notice her affairs. Stuart sees a trusting friend he can steal from. Neil sees someone he can cuckold and mock. Let them see that, right up until the moment I show them exactly who I am." "And who is that?" Carrie asked, curious. Devin placed several $100 bills on the table, far more than their coffee and pie had cost. "Someone who believes revenge, like a fine wine, should be perfectly aged and expertly served." He turned to leave, then paused. Have the cameras installed tomorrow. I want to document everything that happens between now and the barbecue. Every meeting, every lie, every moment of disrespect. What about your wife? Won't she be suspicious of new security installations? Alicia's too busy planning her next book club meeting to notice anything I do. Devin's voice carried absolute certainty. Besides, she thinks I'm working late all week, dealing with those inventory issues Stuart created. And if she does notice, then I'll do what I always do. Smile, nod, and cook her favorite meals. The look in his eyes belied the casual words. Let her think she's still winning. The best revenge requires patience. Carrie watched him leave, noting how other patrons instinctively moved out of his way. She opened her laptop one last time, sending a quick message to her team. Project Hard is a go. Full surveillance package. Priority installation. The client wants everything perfect. The reply came back instantly. Standard setup? No, she typed, thinking of the cold calculation in Devin's eyes. Everything we've got. Something tells me this is going to be one hell of a show. In his car, Devin checked his phone. 3 missed calls from Alicia, followed by a text. Working late again? Don't worry about dinner. I'll order in. Love you. He started the engine, composing his response with careful consideration. Just finishing up. Stuart found some interesting discrepancies in the wine cellar. Nothing I can't handle. Sleep well, dear. The lies flowed easily now, a mirror of the deceptions he'd uncovered. As he drove home, Devin mentally reviewed every detail Carrie had shown him. The surveillance equipment would be in place tomorrow, recording every moment, every conversation, every betrayal. Let them think they were clever, sneaking around behind his back. Let them grow comfortable in their deceit. The summer barbecue was 8 weeks away. 8 weeks to gather evidence, to perfect his timing, to ensure that when the truth was revealed, there would be no escape, no excuses, no mercy. They'd made him look like a fool, turned his generosity against him, mocked his trust and devotion. Soon they would learn what his kitchen staff already knew. Behind the gentle giant exterior, behind the patient smiles and perfectly plated meals, lurked something far more dangerous. The beast they joked about wasn't just a nickname for his dedication to perfection. It was a promise of what was to come. Sophia Stevens wiped down her station with practiced efficiency, her mind replaying the scene she'd witnessed at Velvet, the trendy downtown bar. Stuart Hardin and his brother Neil, surrounded by young lawyers, pouring glasses of what she recognized as Heart's Haven's exclusive reserve wines, bottles that shouldn't exist outside the restaurant's carefully controlled cellar. Something on your mind? Devin's voice made her jump. He stood in the kitchen doorway, his massive frame blocking the exit. Chef Sophia hesitated, then squared her shoulders. 5 years as his sous chef had taught her that Devin Hart valued directness. I saw something last night that didn't sit right. Tell me. Sophia described the scene at Velvet, watching his expression remain perfectly neutral. They were drinking the Chateau Lafite Rothschild, chef. The 1982. We only had 3 bottles in inventory. 4, Devin corrected, his voice dangerously soft. But you're right, we shouldn't have any outside these walls. He moved to her station, examining her mise en place with his usual precision. What else did you notice? Neil was bragging about some big promotion coming up. Said he'd be made partner by summer. Sophia's hands twisted her kitchen towel. Then Stuart made a joke about having the perfect place to celebrate, whenever they wanted. They all laughed like it was some private joke. Did they see you? No. I was at the back booth with my girlfriend. They were too busy showing off their expensive wine to notice the help. Devin nodded slowly. How long have you suspected? The inventory issues started 3 months ago. Small discrepancies at first, then larger ones. Sophia met his gaze steadily. I've worked here since you opened, chef. I know how you run things. Nothing goes missing without a reason. And you didn't report this because? Because I wanted proof first. Because Stuart's your friend. Because she stopped, then forced herself to continue. Because I saw Mrs. Hart with Neil at Café Rouge last week. They weren't exactly discussing literature. A muscle ticked in Devin's jaw, but his voice remained calm. Your loyalty is noted, Sophia. And appreciated. What are you going to do? For now? Nothing. Devin moved to the prep station, examining a knife's edge with practiced care. Sometimes the best revenge requires careful mise en place. Every ingredient properly prepared, every element in its place, every timing perfect. They're making a fool of you, Sophia blurted, then immediately regretted her words. Devin's smile made her step back instinctively. No, Sophia. They're making fools of themselves. They think they're clever, drinking stolen wine, laughing at their own wit. Let them. The best dishes require proper reduction. Before Sophia could respond, the kitchen door swung open. Lindsay Owens, Alicia's sister-in-law, stood there, one hand protectively over her pregnant belly. Chef Hart? I need to talk to you. Privately. Sophia, finish the prep for tonight's service. Devin's tone made it clear the previous conversation was over. Mrs. Owens, shall we use my office? Lindsay's pregnancy had progressed enough to make the walk to his office slower than usual. Devin adjusted his pace automatically, noting how her hands shook as she lowered herself into the chair across from his desk. I shouldn't be here, she began, then stopped, pressing her lips together. And yet you are. Devin sat, his large frame making the executive chair seem almost small. How far along are you now? 6 months. Lindsay's hand remained on her belly. James doesn't know I'm here. He'd be furious if he knew. Your husband seems angry about many things lately. Lindsay's voice caught. He's been covering for them, Stuart and Neil, making excuses to their wives, providing alibis. He thinks I don't know, but I heard him on the phone last week, laughing about some book club meeting. Devin's expression gave nothing away. Go on. Harriet Cummins, Stuart's wife. She's due around the same time as me. We've been going to the same prenatal classes. Lindsay's fingers twisted in her maternity dress. She keeps talking about how Stuart's working late, having all these wine tastings, building his business connections. She's so proud of him, so excited about their future. And I saw him yesterday with your wife at the Westbrook Hotel. The words tumbled out in a rush. They weren't even trying to be discreet. James says I should mind my own business, that these things happen in our social circle, that it's better to look the other way. But Harriet's my friend, and you've always been kind to us, and I couldn't. Thank you, Lindsay. Devin's voice was gentle, at odds with the coldness in his eyes. I appreciate your concern. You're not surprised. It wasn't a question. No. What are you going to do? Devin stood, moving to the office window that overlooked his bustling restaurant. Tell me, does Harriet still help organize the hospital charity events? Yes, she's on the board with Alicia. They're planning some big fundraiser next month. And she's still planning to attend our summer barbecue, even with her pregnancy? Of course. It's the social event of the season. Alicia's been talking about it for weeks. Lindsay's eyes widened. Oh God, you're not going to... I'm not going to do anything. Devin turned back to her, his massive frame silhouetted against the window. Except ensure that the truth comes out in its own time, in its own way. The question is, Mrs. Owens, what are you going to do? I don't understand. Your husband is complicit in their deception. He's helped them hurt people, hurt you, by making you carry this knowledge. When everything comes to light, his role will be exposed too. Lindsay's hand tightened on her belly. Are you threatening me? I'm offering you a choice. Devin returned to his desk, his movements deliberately non-threatening despite his size. Continue as you are, pretending not to see what's happening. Or help ensure that when the truth emerges, you're on the right side of it. What do you want from me? Information. Dates, times, locations. Any communications between James and the others about their arrangements. Devin's voice remained professional, as if discussing a catering order. In return, when everything comes out, I'll ensure you and your child are protected. Financially and socially. Lindsay stared at him for a long moment. They think you don't know. They all joke about it. The oblivious chef, too busy with his restaurant to notice what's happening under his own roof. Let them think that. Devin smiled. It makes the eventual presentation so much more effective. You're different than I thought you were. No, Mrs. Owens. I'm exactly who I've always been. A man who believes in precision, timing, and perfect execution. He stood, signaling the end of the meeting. Think about my offer. And remember, sometimes the best way to protect the innocent is to expose the guilty. After Lindsay left, Devin checked his phone. A text from Carrie confirmed that the surveillance equipment was functioning perfectly. Another from Stuart mentioned a wine tasting scheduled for that evening, code for another meeting with Alicia. He opened his contacts, scrolling to a number he'd obtained but never used. Harriet Cummins' private line, separate from the one Stuart knew about. His thumb hovered over the call button for a moment before he put the phone away. Not yet. Every ingredient in its time, every element in its place. The summer barbecue was 4 weeks away. His kitchen staff had already started discussing the menu, unaware that their chef was planning a very different kind of service. Let them all continue their games, their deceptions, their little victories. The best revenge, like the finest dishes, required perfect timing. The annual summer barbecue had always been Alicia's domain. Her chance to showcase their perfect life, their impeccable taste, their enviable social connections. This year, she'd outdone herself. The guest list had swelled to include not just the restaurant staff and their usual social circle, but key figures from the hospital board, the legal community, even local food critics. Darling, are you sure about these screens? Alicia frowned at the large displays being installed in their backyard. They seem a bit excessive for cooking demonstrations. Trust me. Devin adjusted a camera angle with careful precision. People love to watch the process. It adds an interactive element. If you say so. Alicia's attention was already on her phone, thumbs flying over the keyboard. Oh, Stuart confirmed they're coming. He said Harriet's feeling up to it, despite the pregnancy. Wonderful. Devin made a small adjustment to another camera. And his brother? Neil? Yes, he'll be there too. He's bringing some partners from the firm. Apparently that promotion is practically guaranteed now. Everything he deserves, I'm sure. Devin's tone remained neutral as he checked the camera feeds on his tablet. Each angle perfect, each microphone carefully calibrated. Carrie's work was flawless. The next few weeks passed in a carefully choreographed dance. Devin threw himself into barbecue preparations with his usual perfectionism, testing recipes, adjusting spice blends, coordinating with his staff. If anyone noticed that his surveillance of the cooking areas seemed excessive, they attributed it to his famous attention to detail. Carrie's equipment captured everything. Alicia's hurried meetings with Neil in their bedroom, their mocking laughter as they discussed Devin's barbecue plans. Stuart's visits under the guise of wine consultations, the brothers helping themselves to more bottles from the restaurant's collection. Every conversation, every cruel joke, every moment of disrespect was recorded and catalogued. The night before the barbecue, Devin reviewed the footage one final time in his restaurant office. The evidence was damning, not just of the affairs, but of systematic theft, fraud, and betrayal. Stuart and Neil's conversations revealed their contempt for everyone around them, Devin, their wives, even their social circle. They thought themselves untouchable, clever enough to fool everyone. A knock at his office door interrupted his viewing. Enter. Sophia stepped in, closing the door behind her. Chef, the final preparations are ready for tomorrow. But she hesitated. Speak your mind. I saw Neil and Mrs. Hart at Velvet again. They were laughing about tomorrow, about how you've been too busy with the barbecue preparations to notice anything. Sophia's hands clenched at her sides. They're planning something for tomorrow, chef. Something during the party. I know. Devin's smile made Sophia glad, not for the first time, that she'd always been loyal to him. In fact, I'm counting on it. What are you going to do? Create a memorable dining experience. Devin turned his tablet around, showing her the multiple camera feeds. Sometimes the best way to serve truth is with an audience. Sophia's eyes widened as she realized the extent of his preparation. The cooking demonstration screens will serve their purpose, just not the one they're expecting. Devin's voice carried the same authority he used when commanding his kitchen. I need you to ensure the staff follows tomorrow's timeline exactly. Every service, every presentation, every moment must be precise. And the special wine service Stuart arranged will proceed exactly as planned. Let them think everything is perfect right up until the moment it isn't. The morning of the barbecue arrived with military precision. Devin's staff transformed the backyard into an outdoor dining paradise, complete with cooking stations, wine bars, and the massive screens positioned for optimal viewing. Alicia fluttered from station to station, directing last-minute adjustments, her phone constantly in hand. "Everything looks amazing," she gushed, pressing a quick kiss to Devin's cheek. "The screens are perfect, you were right. Although," she glanced at her phone, "I might need to step away occasionally to handle some last-minute board business." "Of course." Devin checked another camera angle. "Whatever you need, dear." Stewart arrived early, ostensibly to set up the wine service. "Chef, wait until you see what I've brought for today. Some very special bottles I've been saving. I'm sure they're exceptional." Devin's massive hand clasped Stewart's shoulder with just slightly too much force. "Everything you serve today will be memorable. I promise you that." As guests began arriving, Devin moved through the crowd with practiced ease. He noted Neil's arrival, the meaningful glance exchanged with Alicia, saw Harriet Cummins settling carefully into a chair, her pregnancy advanced enough to make standing uncomfortable. Watched James Owens nervously checking his phone while Lindsay spoke with Harriet, her own pregnancy a mirror of her friend's. The pieces were in place. The timing set. All that remained was the presentation. The barbecue reached its peak as afternoon stretched toward evening. Devin moved between cooking stations, demonstrating techniques on the massive screens while keeping one eye on his tablet's discrete camera feeds. The crowd responded enthusiastically to each presentation, unaware they were about to witness a very different kind of show. "That marinade looks amazing," Harriet commented from her seat, one hand resting on her pregnant belly. "Stewart, darling, you should ask Devin to teach you some cooking basics. All those late-night wine tastings should be balanced with actual food." Stewart's laugh carried a nervous edge. "Maybe after the baby comes. Too busy building the business now." Speaking of business, Neil interjected smoothly, "Alicia, didn't you need to show me those hospital board documents? For the legal review?" "Oh, yes." Alicia touched her husband's arm. "Darling, you don't mind if I step away for a moment? Boring paperwork, but it needs to be handled. Take your time." Devin's smile remained pleasant as he seasoned a perfectly seared steak. "Neil, make sure you're back for the main presentation. I've prepared something special." The meaningful glance between Neil and Alicia didn't escape anyone's notice, except, presumably, the oblivious chef focused on his cooking. They slipped away into the house, using the well-practiced excuse that had fooled everyone for so long. 20 minutes, Sophia murmured as she passed Devin's station. Right on cue. Devin continued his cooking demonstration, explaining techniques with the same precision he'd used to plan this moment. The cameras captured everything: Neil and Alicia's hasty entrance into the master bedroom, Stewart's nervous glances toward the house, James Owens' deliberate engagement of Harriet in conversation to distract her. "Ladies and gentlemen," Devin's voice carried across the yard, commanding attention just as it did in his kitchen. "Before we serve the main course, I've prepared a special presentation, something I've been working on for quite some time." The screens flickered, transitioning from cooking demonstrations to a different feed. The crowd's appreciative murmurs turned to shocked gasps as they realized what they were seeing. "You see," Devin continued, his voice carrying clearly through the sudden silence, "I believe in proper preparation, in understanding every ingredient, every technique, every betrayal." The screens showed multiple angles of Neil and Alicia's current encounter, interspersed with carefully edited footage from previous meetings. Their cruel jokes about Devin, their mockery of Harriet's pregnancy, their casual discussion of how they'd been stealing from the restaurant. Everything was laid bare. "Stewart," Devin turned to his wine supplier, who had gone deathly pale. "I believe your wife might be interested in the next segment. The one about how you and your brother have been spending those late-night wine tastings." Harriet's hands gripped her chair arms, her face a mask of shock as the screens revealed Stewart and Neil's conversations about their conquests, their laughter about fooling their wives, their detailed plans for embezzling from the restaurant. "James." Devin's attention shifted to Lindsay's husband. "Your role in all this deserves recognition too. Shall we show everyone how you helped coordinate their meetings?" how you laughed about keeping their secrets. The screens kept playing, showing every betrayal, every cruel joke, every moment of disrespect. The crowd watched in horrified fascination as months of deception unfolded before them. And now, Devin picked up a remote. Let's check in on our current performance. The screens switched to live feed from the master bedroom, where Neil and Alicia were about to learn the meaning of perfect timing. Their faces appeared on every screen, their betrayal broadcast to the entire party. I believe, Devin's voice cut through the shocked silence. This is what they call good television. Neil and Alicia burst out of the house moments later, disheveled and panicked. They froze at the sight of their humiliation playing out on multiple screens, their secret world exposed to everyone they'd been deceiving. Impeccable timing, Devin commented, as if critiquing a perfectly plated dish. Wouldn't you agree, Stuart? Although I suppose timing has never been your strong suit. Unlike wine theft and adultery, the crowd's reaction was everything Devin had orchestrated. Shock, disgust, horrified fascination. Harriet's sobs cut through the murmurs, her pregnancy making her situation even more sympathetic. Lindsay stood by her chair, one hand protective over her own pregnant belly, her other hand pointing accusingly at her husband James. The wine you're all drinking, Devin addressed the crowd, his chef's authority holding their attention, is actually quite special. Stuart and Neil have been stealing from my restaurant's collection for months, replacing premium bottles with cheap substitutes. Today's selection comes from their private stash, paid for with money stolen from my business. Stuart lunged for the nearest wine bottle, as if to hide the evidence. Devin's massive hand caught his arm, grip like iron. Careful, Devin's voice carried clearly across the suddenly silent yard. That's evidence. Just like the financial records, the security footage, and the text messages. I believe the police will find it all very interesting. The screens kept playing, showing every cruel joke, every stolen bottle, every mockery of the marriages they'd betrayed. Devin had edited the footage perfectly, ensuring maximum impact with precise timing. I've always believed, he addressed his gathered guests, his voice carrying the same authority he used in his kitchen, that presentation is everything. Timing must be perfect, every element in its place, every betrayal served cold. He turned to Harriet, who sat rigid in her chair, tears streaming down her face. Mrs. Cummins, I believe you'll find the USB drive under your seat particularly interesting. It contains detailed records of your husband's financial infidelity, along with evidence of his other indiscretions. You planned this. Alicia's voice shook with rage and humiliation. All of it. The cameras, the screens. Of course I did. Devin's smile was terrifying in its calmness. I'm a chef. We live and die by our preparation. And you, my dear, have been marinating in your own deceit for months. The screens showed their final montage, a greatest hits compilation of betrayal and cruelty, perfectly timed to destroy every relationship, every alibi, every carefully constructed lie. Devin had orchestrated their exposure like a perfect service, each revelation building on the last, each betrayal highlighted for maximum impact. I believe, he announced to the stunned crowd, this concludes tonight's entertainment. Though I'm sure the conversations that follow will be equally interesting. The screens continued playing their damning evidence as Alicia and Neil stood frozen at the patio entrance. Their disheveled appearance only added to their humiliation as every guest watched their months of betrayal unfold in high definition. You recorded everything? Alicia's voice cracked, her social mask crumbling as she watched herself mock her husband on multiple displays. Every moment, Devin's voice carried across the stunned silence. Every cruel joke, every stolen bottle of wine, every time you brought them into our bedroom. His massive frame moved with deliberate purpose as he approached the group. I believe this next clip will interest everyone. The footage shifted to Stuart and Neil in the wine cellar, discussing their theft scheme while sampling expensive vintages. The stupid chef doesn't even notice, Neil laughed on screen. Too busy cooking perfect meals for my girlfriend while we drink his profits. Harriet's sob cut through the audio. 7 months pregnant, she whispered, one hand protectively over her belly. You were doing this while I was carrying your child? Harriet, please, Stuart started toward his wife, but Devin's hand clamped onto his shoulder. Stay where you are. The command in Devin's voice froze Stuart mid-step. You haven't seen your best performance yet. The screen switched to footage of Stuart and Neil at various bars and restaurants, pouring stolen wine for their friends, bragging about their conquests. My wife thinks I'm at wine tastings, Stuart's recorded voice echoed across the yard. While Chef Hart's wife tastes something else entirely. You bastard. Harriet struggled to stand, her pregnancy making the movement awkward. All those late nights, all those business meetings. The wine theft alone is worth pressing charges. Devin's voice remained calm, professional. But the financial fraud? That's rather more serious. He turned to address the gathered crowd, many of whom were filming on their phones. You see, Stuart and Neil didn't just steal wine. They created false invoices, doctored inventory records, laundered money through fake wine tastings. You can't prove any of that. Neil's lawyer instincts finally kicked in. Actually, Devin smiled, the expression devoid of warmth. I can prove all of it. Carrie McMillan stepped forward, tablet in hand. Full digital trail, going back months. Bank records, fake invoices, text messages coordinating the theft. Plus some very interesting emails about how they planned to blame it all on the restaurant's staff if anyone started asking questions. James Owens, Lindsay's husband, tried to slip away from the crowd. Devin's voice stopped him cold. Leaving so soon, James? Before we see your contribution to their little enterprise? The screen shifted to show James coordinating meetings, providing alibis, laughing with Stuart and Neil about their deceptions. Lindsay watched, one hand on her pregnant belly, as her husband's role in the betrayal became clear. All those times you covered for them, she said, her voice carrying clearly in the shocked silence. You helped them hurt Harriet, helped them steal from Devin. What were you getting out of it? The footage answered her question, showing James accepting envelopes of cash, drinking stolen wine, joking about how their wives would never suspect. Each revelation drew fresh gasps from the crowd, fresh tears from Harriet. I've always believed in proper documentation, Devin addressed the gathering. In my kitchen, every recipe is precise, every technique recorded, every result measured. The same principle applies to betrayal. The screen showed more footage. Alicia disabling security systems, Stuart falsifying wine orders, Neil bragging about his upcoming law firm partnership while drinking stolen vintages. Every moment captured in perfect clarity, every betrayal preserved for posterity. Your promotion at the firm, Devin turned to Neil. The one you were so certain about. Interesting timing, considering 3 of the senior partners are here today. I wonder how they feel about an associate who commits fraud and adultery. Neil's face drained of color as he spotted his bosses in the crowd, their expressions promising professional consequences to match his personal humiliation. And you? Devin finally turned to his wife, the devoted hospital board member, the perfect socialite. Tell me, how will your charitable friends react to learning their donations were paying for your hotel rooms with Neil? That their trust was funding your betrayal? Alicia's carefully maintained poise cracked entirely. You planned this, she whispered. All of it. The barbecue, the screens. Of course I did. Devin's smile was terrifying in its calmness. I learned from you, after all, about patience, about plotting, about wearing the perfect mask while planning destruction. The footage continued its relentless exposure. Clips of Alicia and Neil mocking Devin's devotion played alongside evidence of Stuart's theft. Screenshots of James's incriminating texts alternated with security footage of their secret meetings. Harriet, Devin's voice softened slightly as he addressed Stuart's pregnant wife. I owe you an apology. I knew about their betrayal for months, but waited to expose it. I needed time to gather evidence, to ensure their destruction would be complete. I'm sorry you had to learn about it this way. Don't you dare apologize, Harriet's voice shook with rage. You showed me the truth. They're the ones, she broke off, hands cradling her belly as she processed the magnitude of the betrayal. Everything is documented, Devin continued, addressing the stunned crowd. Financial records, video evidence, text messages, emails. I believe the relevant authorities will find it all very interesting. He paused, letting the implications sink in. As will your employers, your clients, and your social circle. The screens showed their final montage, a greatest hits compilation of betrayal that left no doubt, no room for denial, no possibility of redemption. Devin had orchestrated their exposure with the same precision he brought to his kitchen, ensuring maximum impact with perfect timing. Neil made a desperate grab for one of the tablets displaying evidence. Devin's hand shot out, catching his wrist in an iron grip. "That would be tampering with evidence," he said pleasantly. "Adding criminal charges to professional misconduct seems unwise, doesn't it?" "You've destroyed us," Alicia whispered.
No.
Devin's voice carried clearly across the stunned gathering. "You destroyed yourselves. I simply provided the perfect presentation for your downfall." The crowd began to disperse, phones already spreading the scandal across social media. Harriet sat crying in her chair, Lindsay trying to comfort her while avoiding her own husband's desperate attempts to explain. Stuart and Neil stood frozen, watching their carefully constructed world crumble on multiple screens. "The funny thing about betrayal," Devin addressed his gathered guests one final time, "is that it's like food poisoning. The symptoms might take time to appear, but once they do, the effects are devastating." He smiled, the expression sending chills through the crowd. "And the best cure? Complete exposure of the contamination." The screens kept playing their damning evidence as the barbecue dissolved into chaos, showing the world exactly who these people were behind their perfect masks. Devin had served his revenge with perfect timing, ensuring maximum damage with clinical precision. As he watched their destruction unfold, he felt no satisfaction, no joy, only the cold certainty of a job well executed. Like any good chef, he had prepared his ingredients carefully, timed each element perfectly, and delivered a service his guests would never forget. The exposure was complete, but this was only the beginning of their downfall. In the weeks following the barbecue, the consequences of Devin's exposure rippled through their social and professional circles with devastating precision. Each morning brought fresh destruction, carefully orchestrated through the evidence he'd gathered. Stuart sat in his empty wine shop, staring at the termination notices from every major restaurant in their network. The footage of his theft, combined with the financial records Devin had compiled, made him radioactive in the industry. Even his former friends wouldn't return his calls. Final inspection done, Sophia announced from the doorway. She'd volunteered to oversee the recovery of stolen inventory, taking particular pleasure in documenting every missing bottle. "Amazing how many premium vintages we found in your private collection. Just take them." Stuart's voice cracked. "Take everything." "Oh, we will." Sophia's smile was cold. "Chef's orders. Complete documentation of every stolen item, every fraudulent invoice, every penny you embezzled. The insurance companies are particularly interested in your creative accounting." "He's ruined me."
No.
Sophia checked items off her tablet with precise movements. "You ruined yourself. Chef just provided the perfect venue for your exposure." She paused at the door. "By the way, Harriet's lawyer called. She's particularly interested in the offshore accounts you thought no one would find." Across town, Neil sat in his law firm's conference room, facing the senior partners he'd been so sure would promote him. The screens behind them displayed footage from the barbecue, along with financial records of his role in the wine theft. Given the evidence, the managing partner's voice was arctic. "We have no choice but to terminate your employment, effective immediately." "You can't." Neil started to protest. "We can and we will." Another partner cut him off. "Consider yourself fortunate if we don't report this to the Bar Association. Though given how quickly this is spreading on social media, your legal career may be over regardless." "Devin planned this," Neil whispered. "Timed it perfectly to destroy everything." "Mr. Hart," the managing partner's tone dripped contempt, "simply exposed your true character. The destruction is entirely your own doing." James Owens discovered his role as facilitator carried its own devastating consequences. His real estate clients, many of whom had attended the barbecue, canceled contracts en masse. The footage of him accepting payoffs, coordinating adultery, betraying his pregnant wife. It all painted a picture no amount of explanation could erase. "I was just helping friends," he protested to empty offices and unanswered phones. Lindsay's response had been simple and final. Divorce papers, delivered to his office along with screenshots of every incriminating text, every damning video clip. Her lawyer's message was clear: fight it, and everything would become very, very public. But it was Alicia who faced the most complete destruction. Her carefully cultivated social status evaporated overnight. The hospital board, horrified by evidence that she'd used charity events to cover her affairs, demanded her immediate resignation. Every organization she'd led, every committee she chaired, every social circle she dominated, all closed their doors. "You've destroyed everything I built," she accused Devin during their final meeting, surrounded by lawyers in a sterile conference room. No, his response was calm, measured. "I simply revealed what you really built. A facade of respectability hiding corruption at its core. I want half of everything," she demanded. "The house, the restaurant, all of it." Devin's laugh held no humor. "Check your prenup, dear. The one you signed without reading because you were too busy planning your first assignation with Neil. Infidelity clause, financial fraud clause, reputation damage clause. I had them all added years ago. Just in case. You couldn't have known. I didn't need to know. I just needed to be prepared." He slid a final document across the table. "You get nothing. The house, the wine collection, your social status, it's all gone. Just like your lover's law career and your partner's wine business. You planned every detail," she whispered. "Every consequence, every destruction." "Of course I did." Devin stood, his massive frame making the conference room seem small. "You taught me the importance of careful planning. After all, consider it my final gift to you. A lesson in perfect execution." The consequences continued to unfold with relentless precision. Stewart's wine shop closed, its inventory seized as evidence of fraud. Neil's law firm issued a public statement distancing themselves from his actions. James's real estate empire crumbled as clients fled the scandal. Harriet, supported by evidence Devin had gathered, filed for divorce. Her lawyers used the barbecue footage to devastating effect, ensuring Stewart's financial destruction would match his personal humiliation. Every attempt he made to contact her was met with more evidence of his betrayal, more proof of his corruption. "You never suspected," Sophia commented one evening as she reviewed the final inventory of recovered wine. "They all thought you were too busy, too trusting, too focused on your kitchen to see their betrayal." "The best revenge," Devin replied, examining a returned bottle of Chateau Margaux, "requires perfect timing. Like any good recipe, you must let it develop properly." The consequences of his exposure spread beyond their immediate circle. Other restaurants began auditing their wine programs, suspicious of similar theft. Law firms scrutinized their associates more carefully. Charity organizations implemented stricter financial controls. Devin had created a ripple effect of destruction, each consequence building on the last, each revelation leading to fresh devastation. He'd orchestrated their downfall with the same precision he brought to his kitchen, ensuring maximum impact with perfect execution. The man they dismissed as an oblivious workaholic had revealed himself to be a master strategist, turning their own arrogance into the instrument of their destruction. Their mockery of his dedication became the blueprint for their downfall, their underestimation of his intelligence the foundation of their ruin. Their world hadn't just been exposed. It had been systematically dismantled, piece by piece, with the same attention to detail Devin brought to his finest dishes. The consequences weren't just severe. They were absolute. 6 months after the barbecue that shattered his social circle, Devin stood in his restaurant's kitchen, examining a new dish with clinical precision. The truth tartare had become his signature creation. Raw emotion served with calculated elegance, just like his revenge. "Table 12 wants to know if you'll speak with them." Sophia approached his station, tablet in hand. "Food critics from that national magazine. They're doing a piece on how the revenge menu transformed Heart's Haven into the hottest reservation in 3 states. Tell them the food speaks for itself." Devin adjusted a garnish with surgical precision. Like revenge, proper cuisine requires no explanation. The restaurant had not merely survived the scandal, it had transcended it. Every dish on the new menu told a story of betrayal and retribution. Revelation risotto, simmered with secrets revealed at perfect temperature. Consequence consommé, offered crystal-clear justice in every spoon. Latest numbers, Sophia placed a report beside his cutting board. Waiting list is now 6 months long. Every food blogger in the country wants to experience the revenge served cold concept firsthand, and the wine cellar? Fully restocked. Properly this time. Sophia's smile held satisfaction. Though some guests ask about the stolen vintage story, it's become quite the urban legend. Speaking of vintage, Devin wiped his hands methodically. Has the auction house confirmed the date? Next week. They're expecting record bids for Alicia's collection. Sophia checked her tablet. All proceeds to the domestic abuse charity, as you specified. The publicity alone has already doubled their annual donations. Devin nodded, then turned as a new figure appeared in the kitchen doorway. Harriet Cummins stood there, her newborn daughter cradled against her chest, looking far stronger than she had at the barbecue. "I hope we're not interrupting," she said, adjusting the baby's blanket. "I wanted you to meet her before we leave town. And to thank you properly." Devin gestured to his office, where a comfortable chair awaited. He'd added it specifically for Harriet's visits during her divorce proceedings. She settled in, the baby making small, contented noises. Stewart's lawyer called again, she reported, her voice steady. Offered another settlement. As if money could erase what he did. Your counteroffer? Complete admission of guilt. Public apology. Surrender of all business assets. Harriet's smile was cold. The evidence you provided left him no choice. He signs tomorrow. And Neil? Left town last week. No law firm will touch him after what happened. Last I heard, he's working as a paralegal in some small-town practice. She adjusted her daughter's position. The medical board formally censured Alicia yesterday. Seems they take a dim view of using hospital charity events to facilitate affairs. Devin examined the baby's peaceful face. You're better off without them. Both of you. I know. Harriet's voice held certainty. What they did, I would have never known if you hadn't exposed it. Would have raised my daughter in a lie. The truth has a way of rising to the surface. Devin returned to his preparation station. Like cream in properly heated sauce. The house had sold above asking price, its notorious history adding macabre appeal. Devin donated the proceeds to various charities, each donation calculated to remind their social circle of the scandal that had funded them. His new apartment overlooked the restaurant, allowing him to focus entirely on his empire's expansion. 3 new locations were under development, each featuring the revenge-themed menu that had made him a culinary celebrity. They never understood, he told Sophia one evening as they finalized the next season's dishes. In the kitchen, like in life, proper technique reveals true character. Under pressure, everything hidden rises to the surface. The media called it a resurrection, the wronged husband transforming private pain into public triumph. Food critics waxed poetic about dishes that told stories of betrayal and justice. Social columnists tracked the ongoing destruction of those who had wronged him. But for Devin, it was simply the perfect execution of a well-planned recipe. Each ingredient of their downfall had been measured precisely, each element of his revenge timed perfectly. He had served justice at exactly the right temperature, ensuring maximum impact with clinical precision. Harriet brought her daughter to the restaurant weekly, healing through shared meals and quiet conversations. Their friendship grew from mutual understanding, both knowing that trust, once broken, could never be truly repaired. You never considered forgiveness? She asked one evening, watching him prepare a new dish. Forgiveness, Devin replied, plating with surgical precision, is like raw fish. Served at the wrong temperature, it makes everyone sick. The restaurant thrived, its success built on the ashes of betrayal. Every dish reminded their social circle of that fateful barbecue. Every wine served in properly documented vintage. Devin had transformed their mockery into his trademark, their betrayal into his brand. The secret, he told his staff during training, isn't in getting even. It's in serving revenge at the perfect temperature. Too hot, it burns you. Too cold, it loses impact. But timed perfectly. He gestured to the packed dining room, where guests eagerly awaited his latest creations. It becomes an art form. The man they had dismissed as a pushover had revealed himself to be a master strategist. The quiet chef they had mocked had orchestrated their complete destruction. The husband they had betrayed had transformed their cruel jokes into his greatest triumph. In his kitchen, every dish was a reminder that underneath his calm exterior lay something far more dangerous. A man who believed in perfect execution, whether in cuisine or revenge. Their betrayal had simply proved what his staff had always known. Behind the gentle giant facade lurked someone who would settle for nothing less than complete victory. They had thought him oblivious, too busy with his restaurant to notice their betrayal. Instead, he had used that restaurant to destroy them, turning their own arrogance into the instrument of their downfall. Every perfectly plated dish served as a warning. Underestimate him at your peril. The revenge menu continued to draw crowds, each dish telling its own story of justice served at precisely the right moment. But for Devin, the true satisfaction lay in the execution, in knowing that, like every recipe he had mastered, his revenge had been served at the perfect temperature. Epilogue. 5 years later. The headline in the culinary magazine read, Hart's Empire. How one chef's tale of revenge revolutionized fine dining. The article featured a photo of Devin Hart standing in his flagship restaurant's kitchen, his imposing figure unchanged by time, his eyes carrying the same calculated intensity that had orchestrated his enemy's destruction years ago. Another profile piece? Sophia asked, setting down the quarterly revenue reports from Hart's now international restaurant chain. They're still fascinated by the story. People hunger for justice more than food, Devin replied, examining a new dish for his latest menu. Speaking of hunger, any updates on our old friends? Sophia pulled up her tablet, a habit she'd maintained since the days of gathering evidence. Alicia's latest attempt to rebuild her social status failed spectacularly. That small charity in Milwaukee finally Googled her name. She scrolled through her notes. They withdrew their board invitation within hours. Seems your documentation of her past indiscretions remains remarkably accessible online. And Neil? Still practicing law in that tiny town in Idaho. Mostly handling minor property disputes and traffic violations. Sophia's smile held satisfaction. His last attempt to join a larger firm ended when your barbecue footage mysteriously appeared in the managing partner's email. 5 years later, and that video still ruins him. The Hart restaurant empire had expanded to 12 locations across 3 countries, each featuring the infamous revenge menu that had made him a culinary legend. Food critics wrote dissertations about how each dish told a story of betrayal and justice, served at precisely the right temperature. Harriet called. Sophia continued. Her daughter just started kindergarten. She's doing well. The settlement you helped her secure means Stewart's wine fraud is still funding her education. Stewart's latest venture? Failed. Again. Sophia checked another note. Turns out, when you Google wine supplier and his name, your security footage is the first result. No legitimate restaurant will work with him. He's selling cheap wines at a strip mall shop in Nevada now. Devin nodded, his attention seemingly focused on the delicate sauce he was reducing. James Owens? Divorced again. Seems Lindsay's public exposure of his role in the scandal made him toxic in the dating pool. He's selling timeshares in Florida now, under his mother's maiden name. Not that it helps, your documentation follows him everywhere. The restaurant's newest location in London had just earned its 3rd Michelin star. The critic's review specifically mentioned how the truth tartare carried notes of justice served at perfect temperature. The waiting list for reservations stretched 8 months. The documentary crew called again, Sophia mentioned, putting her tablet away. They want to do a special on the 5th anniversary of the barbecue, offering 7 figures for exclusive rights to your footage. Tell them what we always tell them. Devin's voice carried the same controlled power it had 5 years ago. The footage stays private, like aged wine. Some things are too valuable to share. Across town, in a small 1-bedroom apartment, Alicia King, she'd reverted to her maiden name after the divorce, stared at another rejection email. This one from a small charitable organization in Oregon. Like all the others, they discovered her past during routine background checks. Her phone buzzed with a text from Neil. Another paralegal position fell through. They found the video. Again. Their affair had survived the exposure, though not in the way either had imagined. Now they clung to each other out of shared devastation rather than passion, their weekly calls focusing on failed attempts to rebuild their lives. Stuart's latest text to Neil remained unanswered. Need money. Shop failing. Harriet's lawyers found another account. His fall from wine fraudster to discount liquor salesman was well documented in industry blogs, each article inevitably linking back to the barbecue footage. James Owen's latest Facebook profile, his 12th attempt to establish a clean online presence, lasted 3 days before someone posted links to the evidence Devin had gathered. His role as facilitator had earned him a special place in the documentation, his casual betrayal of his pregnant wife ensuring his permanent exile from respectable society. Back at Heart's Haven, Devin supervised the preparation of a private dinner. Harriet had brought her daughter, now 5, for their monthly meal together. Their friendship had deepened over the years, built on a shared understanding of betrayal and justice. Lucy asked about her father today. Harriet mentioned as they shared a new dish Devin was developing. I showed her the trust fund documentation instead. She's too young to understand the whole story, but she knows her education is funded by Daddy's mistakes. The best lessons, Devin replied, adjusting the plating with surgical precision, are served cold. The restaurant's original location had become a pilgrimage site for food critics and revenge enthusiasts alike. The room where the barbecue footage first played now hosted private events, its screens displaying cooking demonstrations that were actually legitimate. Sophia's girlfriend, now her wife, handled PR for the restaurant empire. She particularly enjoyed fielding media requests about the scandal. Sorry, she'd tell reporters, Mr. Hart doesn't discuss the past. His food speaks for itself. Lindsay had rebuilt her life in Chicago, using her experience to counsel other betrayed spouses. Her support group meetings often featured catering from Hart's local restaurant, each dish a reminder that justice, properly served, could nourish healing. The original barbecue footage, perfectly preserved in multiple secure locations, continued its work of destruction. Any attempt by the betrayers to rebuild their reputations was met with anonymous emails containing relevant clips. Their community service, charity work, and public apologies couldn't compete with the documented evidence of their cruelty. I saw Alicia at the grocery store last week, Harriet mentioned during another dinner. She was applying for a cashier position. The manager was watching your footage on his phone during her interview. The aftertaste of betrayal, Devin noted, lingers longer than any wine. Neil's law career remained a cautionary tale told at ethics seminars. His former firm used redacted versions of Devin's evidence in training sessions, teaching young lawyers how quickly reputation could be destroyed by documented misconduct. Stuart's ex-wife had remarried, a respected oncologist who appreciated both her strength and her daughter. They lived in the house Stuart's settlement had paid for, their happiness built on the ashes of his destruction. The restaurant industry still whispered about the wine fraud scheme, using Hart's documentation in inventory control seminars. Stuart's methodology became a textbook example of how not to steal from employers, his hubris preserved in training manuals. James Owen's children, now teenagers, had found the footage online. Their mother used it to teach them about loyalty and consequences, ensuring the next generation understood the price of betrayal. But it was Alicia who bore the deepest scars of their exposure. Her carefully constructed social world hadn't just crumbled, it had been systematically erased. Each attempt to rebuild was met with perfectly preserved evidence of her cruelty, her mockery, her betrayal. Sometimes, she'd written in her last attempt to apologize, I dream about the barbecue. About watching myself destroy everything I'd built. You didn't just expose us. You made sure we'd never recover. Devin had never replied. Like any master chef, he knew some dishes required no explanation. The proof was in the execution, in the precise timing, in the perfect temperature at which revenge was served. His empire continued to grow, each new restaurant carrying the legend of its origin. Critics wrote about the poetic justice of his success, built on the very betrayal meant to destroy him. Food bloggers analyzed how each dish on his menu told a story of comeuppance served with perfect precision. The quiet chef they'd mistaken for a pushover had become a legend in multiple industries. Restaurant management courses studied his attention to detail. Security firms analyzed his evidence-gathering techniques. Law schools examined how thoroughly he documented their downfall. The secret, he told a packed kitchen during staff training, isn't just in the preparation. It's in the preservation. Every dish, like every revenge, must be properly maintained to retain its impact. 5 years later, his revenge continued to serve itself. Their betrayal had become his brand, their mockery his trademark, their destruction his legacy. He had transformed their cruel jokes into an empire, their underestimation into his greatest triumph. In his kitchen, every perfectly plated dish carried the same message their betrayal had taught him. True power lies not in the attack, but in the execution. Like the finest wines they'd stolen, his revenge had only grown more potent with time. The man they dismissed as too busy with his restaurant to notice their betrayal had used that same focus to ensure they'd never escape its consequences. Their destruction wasn't just complete. It was perpetual, served fresh to each new generation, maintained at precisely the right temperature for maximum impact. They had thought him oblivious, too trusting, too focused on his kitchen to see their deception. Instead, he had transformed that kitchen into the instrument of their eternal downfall, ensuring that, like the finest dishes, his revenge would be savored long after the initial service. The empire he'd built on their betrayal stood as a testament to the truth they'd learned too late. Some dishes, like some revenges, are best served not just cold, but in perpetuity, maintained at perfect temperature by a master who understood that true victory lies not in the destruction, but in ensuring it endures. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.